So you want to make a high school lip dub. How hard can it be, right? Well, I'm here to tell you about the way I make them. I don't know if it's the right way because I've never actually talked to anyone about how to make them, but the four I've made, this is what I do. These are my steps. I'm gonna go through 6 steps of like how to actually organize and make it, and then at the end I'm gonna show you the equipment that I use, which is probably the least important part, believe it or not. The organization is the most. How to make a high school lip dub. Here we go. The first step to making a high school lip dub is the soundtrack. And if I just pick the music, it doesn't necessarily resonate with the kids. So I usually ask them. So what I do is I create a Google form and I email it to all 2,000 high schoolers and I let them request songs. This year we had about 150 song recommendations, and it's really hard to pick the music because sometimes kids think, oh yeah, this is a great song, but you have to remember that you have to lip sync the song, which means you need to know the words, which means of course the words have to be school appropriate and something that everyone can sing along to. It also has to kind of be upbeat, right? You don't want like a real sad song. I tried that one year and it didn't go so well. So the music is really important, and I really try to listen to the kids and pick music that they want and that represents them. I don't always do a great job, but I try. Once you have all the song suggestions, you have to go through them and start figuring out little pieces of the song. So I try to keep the clips around 30 seconds, but it's not always that easy. Sometimes you just have to listen to the song and find the spot that makes the most sense for the lip dub. And once you find a song that you like, what you have to do is you find it on YouTube and you copy the YouTube link into a site where if you Google YouTube to MP3, you will get some sites where they will actually create the video into an MP3. Careful with these sites, they're a little wonky, but you know, they do work. Okay, so then you download that MP3, and let's say you have about 20 songs, then you got to put them into a video editor and start piecing them together. You want to really try to get a pace where the songs kind of flow together, and like sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. It's so opinion based that you know I don't really know if I do a good job at that or not, but there definitely needs to be a flow to the music. I also highly recommend that your video soundtrack is less than 10 minutes. But one thing you got to do with the soundtrack, once you have it built, you need to upload it to YouTube to make sure that none of the songs are blocked. The most recent one that we did, all of the songs were fine, except they are highly restricted in Russia. But I have had videos in the past where the song is blocked by the artist, and therefore you can't use it, even though you're not trying to make any money off it. It would be really bad if you film the whole lip dub, upload it to YouTube, and then find a couple of the parts are blocked. That would be really bad. So make sure that you test run your soundtrack before you do anything. Second step is signing up for the lip dub. So this year what I did is I did a Google form where the kids could select from a drop-down menu what song they wanted, and they had to put them in groups of 4. They couldn't be any bigger than 4 because you got to be able to fit kids in the frame. You can't have 25 kids in one section trying to all sing. So I kept it to groups of 4, and I let them know what time sign up was going to do it. I did it during our advisory period, which is like homeroom, where I knew all kids were kind of in the same spot in the school, and I sent out the form early, but I didn't activate it till a specific minute. And when I activated it, I had about 50 groups sign up within 5 minutes, which was great because we had way too many people, which is like, it's a really good thing. But also if a kid forgot or you're not super organized or you missed some of my emails, you may have missed out. So I don't know if there's like a really perfect way to do it, but it's very organized and it's easy to delete and reorganize people. So that's how I suggest you do it, Google Forms. Number 3, you gotta pick the route. The route, I don't know what to tell you. Good luck with the route. The easiest thing to do is long hallways where it's very easy to know where to go. And that's probably what I should do. But I want to show off the school. So I am always trying to get into classrooms, into gymnasiums, into auditoriums, the pool, all kinds of places that show off our school, because it really is kind of a time capsule of what our school was on that day. And I think it's really important. The problem with my routes is that it's hard to communicate where that route is. And so what I do is I actually video the route. I walk the entire route and I line up the music right to where I want to go. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of planning and a lot of guessing of how long things are going to take. And so I have a rough route that I give the kids. I don't ask them too much because sometimes you just got to make decisions. And then I actually email that route out to the students. And some of them watch it. I mean, a lot of them watch it, but many of them don't. And that is where the communication can really be difficult, because you've come up with this cool route and then they don't pay attention to it and everyone's a little lost. So if maybe your first time, I would stick to long hallways, maybe a big rectangle, something easy for the route. Also, if you're going up and down stairs and you have a camera and you're moving with a camera, going up and down stairs can be tricky. Trust me, somehow I've never fallen. Number 4, you've got to communicate. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Right when you think the word is out, it's probably not. So make sure that you communicate on multiple ways for kids to know. Yes, you can email them, but let's be honest, high schoolers struggle reading their emails. But you still got to do it, right? So you email, then I usually make a video and I put it on our school news channel. And then I also make a video that I post to our school news channel Instagram. And that's kind of the best way I can think of. But even then, a lot of kids don't know what's going on. So you just gotta communicate as much as you can, but also understand that many kids are not gonna know what's going on. In terms of communication, another thing I do is once I have the kids who are the performers, the ones that have signed up, I actually create a group chat and group me, and I email them individually to join the chat. And that's a really good way for me to communicate with them when I'm thinking of something small and I don't have to email them. I highly recommend some kind of group chat that you can talk to your kids. So I had a group chat of about 90 students this time around, and it was pretty much just me giving out information. They rarely responded. It was just kind of a nice way to get info out. So I recommend some kind of group chat as well for the actual performers. Number 5, you've got to practice the lip dub. You cannot try it for the first time on day 1. So for the people that actually signed up for the lip dub, not the people on the sides, or the people on the sides can show up on the day of, but the people that are actually lip syncing to the lip dub, I run 2 practices after school before we do it. And it's good and bad, right? It definitely eliminates kids that have sports sometimes. It can be difficult for them to get to it, but we have to practice. We have to figure out timing. It's really important. So I usually have 2 practices. The first day, the first practice is to get the kids in the route. I actually show them the route video, and then we go do the route. So I can tell them, you start at this point and we need to end this word on this point, and then we move on to the next one. And we really just kind of get a feel of what it looks like. I also record the practice so that I can send it out to the kids so they can see what they look like and like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how badly I know these words. I got to really practice. But I only send that link out to the performers. I do not send that out to the whole school. Then we do a second practice, and it's really just starting to perfect it. You know, sometimes my route is too slow, and so we have to speed things up, or we have to shift where songs begin, and it's just a way of ironing out all of the details. I also print out all of the lyrics to every single song, and I give them to the kids so that they can read it and practice while they're there, and that tends to be a pretty good system. Number 6, game day, the actual day for the lip dub. I basically have 55 minutes to film this whole thing. So then I usually send an email to all the staff excusing the performers about 30 minutes before we're actually going to film. And then they get on the route, we figure it out, we talk, we make sure we know who's going to be there, who's going to say what, and we just start to plan it out. Then advisory starts. All of the students in the high school have to go check in with their advisory teacher, and then they're expected to go to the route if they want. I have emailed them an exact minute I am going to start filming the lip dub, and I stick to it. This year it was 1:25 p.m. We started at 1:25 p.m. I also have a student that goes behind me and gives people a heads up that he's coming. He's going to be there in about 30 seconds. The last thing that I always really preach to the kids, and it only works about half the time, is the idea of silent enthusiasm. The people on the sides, we want them to be excited. We want them to, but we want them to do it silently, because for me, I use this little Bluetooth speaker and I attach it to my belt, and this is our soundtrack for the performers. It's not very loud, but it is mobile, and that's really nice. Some people actually have a person behind them with a big speaker. It's probably better for sound, but sometimes the camera operator can trip over that. It gets a little messy. This gets really difficult at the end. Usually we have a collection of students of 300-400, and it's just impossible to think that they're going to be silent, but we keep trying. Once we actually film the lip dub, we always do it a second time. Between you and me, the first time is really just practice. In fact, the first time that we do it with the whole school, there's always a mistake or there's something that's really wrong that you just can't fix it. So the second time, I usually have a bullhorn where I talk to the kids at the end and I say, okay, we got to do this, 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 and this. Here we go. All right, then we do it a second time, and I have always used the second cut, and it's usually pretty good. It's not perfect. No lip dub will ever be perfect. It doesn't exist. In fact, I actually kind of joke with the kids. Sometimes the imperfections are the best parts, sometimes. So that's how I make a lip dub. I'm not saying it's the right way. I don't know. There's probably schools that do it way better, but it's just me. And I do have staff that help me out quite a bit on the day of. Usually I get about 13 or 14 staff members that are willing to help. And their main job really is just on the day of. And I have them as a captain of a song. So we'll have one, you can be administrator, counselor, teacher, whomever. They're in charge of one song so that we know that this is where the route is, the kids are behaving, they're being silently enthusiastic, and that helps kind of maintain the chaos. All right, for the equipment, what do we use for a high school lip dub? There's not as much as you would think. First, my camera that I used this year was a district provided camera. In the past, I've always used my own mirrorless cameras, but this year I used a Fuji X-H2S with a 16 to 55 millimeter f2.8 lens. That is probably not wide enough. I would recommend a wider lens. There's a 13 mil or an 8 mil, but I don't have one from the district, so I didn't use that. Mine was probably a little tight because there were probably some kids that got cropped out that shouldn't have. So I would recommend a wide angle lens. By no means do you need to use a Fuji X-H2S or anything like this. Honestly, you could probably use an iPhone or a GoPro. I'm not saying they're the best, but you probably could get away with that as long as you have them on a gimbal. So what is a gimbal and what do I use? The gimbal that I use is a DJI Ronin, I believe, DJI Ronin 3. They make gimbals now that are relatively inexpensive, and you have to have it. You have to have your camera stabilized. You cannot just walk backward. It won't go well, I promise. You must have a gimbal. The other thing I want to tell you about with your camera and your gimbal, you need to go backward. This is just my opinion. I know that many schools, when you watch your lip dubs, the camera's going forward and the people are going backward. This is just my opinion. I just don't feel like they flow very well. The performers not only are nervous, but now they're lip syncing and going backward with people on their sides, and it gets a little wonky. Yeah. So that's how you make a lip dub. Kinda, maybe. I don't know. That's how we do it. So I hope this was helpful. Remember that the perfection is in the imperfections. It's going to be chaotic. There's just no way around it. But sometimes the chaos is great. Sometimes it's not, though. Like, sometimes it's really not. Okay. There you go. How to make a high school lip dub. You still want to make one? How do you make one? Do you do it like way differently? Has your school done one before? Like, am I just making some big time mistakes? Let me know in the comments. All right.